What's up, boys? Callsign Grimey here. Today I'm going to walk you through my deck build list for the Russian faction in the Broken Arrow multiplayer that is now underway here. As I have said before, my prior video covering the USA, the Marine Corps faction, which I'll link to it below if you want to check that one out here. By no means is this an end-all be-all deck build for the Russian faction. There's many different ways you can do this. My goal here is to help inspire you, maybe give you a baseline to play off of, and you can refine these deck builds as you play more and more of Broken Arrow. And it really comes down to how you're going to play the game and how you want to play the game that really dictates, you know, what units you're going to bring out there. Although I would argue that there are some commonalities across any kind of a deck. So let's jump straight into it. We're going to look at our reconnaissance side of things. So we're going to start off with the VPC Razvedka, and please excuse me if I mispronunciate any of these names. I don't speak Russian. Anyway, these units cost 70 gold. They're not too expensive, quite honestly. And with the Razvedka, you get a good assortment of armament within this small little detachment here. You got AK-74s, GP-34s, RPGs, which are very powerful and can really take out a tank if they're, you know, or a less armored ground unit if they approach you. And you've got a sniper within here as well. These guys are pretty useful, and for the cost, yeah, why not take max them all out here? Next, we're going to look at the VPC Spetsnaz. Similar kind of a setup here. They're a small specialized unit, same cost, only this time these guys have a burr in the arsenal here that can again do well if they run up on a armored unit or a some kind of a vehicle ground unit. They can take that out, so it's good to have them up there. You're going to utilize these guys by obviously pushing up to the front lines. These are going to be the ones that are scouting out, you know, looking out for targets, and if the opportunity, they will take them out. Next, and by the way, I maxed out on all four of those. Going back quickly, I should mention that for the Razvedka, I did also select taking out the BMD2. I only took out one unit of that, so if I do want to rush them up to the front lines, when I spawn them in, they can get into a tank and have that tank hurry up and get them up there as fast as possible. Same situation with the Spetsnaz, only I chose the Typhoon VDV to get them up there. Again, I don't want to spend too much money on these vehicles that are just really there meant to just take up to the front lines as quick as possible. And at 30 gold, it's pretty inexpensive right there. The BMD's reasonably priced at 45 right there, so they're right in the same ballpark. And I just want these vehicles just to transport them to the area where I want these units to stage and then work. Next, doesn't hurt to have an Orion in your arsenal. You're going to get some of that basically coverage on the field. It raises up your situational awareness, identifies, you know, ground enemy forces on the ground, and at 65 gold, yeah, why not just take them both and utilize them, especially when there's no enemy air visible. Go ahead and throw one up there real quick. Helps give you eyes in the sky, and then you can quickly get a glimpse on the battlefield, remove some of that fog of war, and then move as you need to move. It's best to get it up there, scout out something real quick, and get it back to base, because once it's up in the air, enemy forces are quick to respond to that, and they'll send a unit out to go take it out. So get it up there, scout real quick. The minute you see something, just pull it back and RTB. Next, you've got the VDV. Basically, their sniper crew here. They're a little bit more expensive. Here I have two units I'm bringing out. I don't normally use them a lot. As I said, the same thing about even in the Marine Corps with their snipers. I don't use them a ton, but they do have their place, and they can be very useful, especially if you're trying to do flanking movements. You can send them out off the flank where it's more likely they may not encounter, you know, a large amount of enemy forces. They can kind of sneak around the backside of the flank and get eyes into something for you to then use other units or to then attack those points and all that stuff. So we've got two units there. I also went ahead and selected the Typhoon VDV as the main transportation for them, and it's only 30 gold for that. So again, very cost efficient, to be quite honest with you. Rounding things out here for my last selection here in the reconnaissance tab is going to be the BRM 3K. Went ahead with this guy because of the munitions it has on there, and again mostly because of the price point at 85 gold, kind of like, you know, middle of the road, not too expensive, not exactly cheap. So this really allows you a lot more flexibility depending on, you know, what's going on with your resources. Are you gold rich? Are you gold poor? This allows you to at least to be able to pull something out in the battlefield to then utilize it. Plus it has the PKT on there, so it's a decent amount of weaponry on there, armor package, so you can do some work on there for you. When you look at my lineup of units for the reconnaissance division, I mean, the allocation is 1500. I'm right there at 1445. So running with this one gives you a nice selection of units at a good price point there. And you have a good amount of them too. I mean, you got 10 total units just between the Razvaka and the Spetsnaz. And so, yeah, really good lineup right there. I used it in the closed beta, did me well. Check that out. Moving into the infantry side of things, this is your boots on the ground right here. You're going to have the, I'm just going to call them the GM because there's no way I'm going to even attempt to pronounce that. The GM here, again, boots on the ground, AK-12s, GP-34s, the RPG-28, which is very useful. And then they have the PKP here to round out their armament in the platoon right here. Again, you're going to need boots on the ground to hold positions, to put them in buildings, to hold your control points, max them all out. They cost you 75 gold. I also paired that up with the K-16 Boomerang as their main transportation vehicle here, which is like a APC kind of a vehicle here. So only pick one of those. The cost of this thing is 50 gold, so relatively inexpensive. Again, when I pull these vehicles out, I'm really focused on them being able to move quickly and get my units into the battle from the staging point where they spawn in. I mean, this vehicle goes at a rate of forward speed of 100, so it's pretty quick. It'll get them up there pretty quickly, and that's what I like about it. Next, we're gonna have the IS, and the IS unit here priced the same as the GM, although their armament's a little bit different. AK-74, GP-34, the RPG SV2, and finally the KSK. So that's their armament right here, a little bit more heavy duty. I maxed those guys out at all four, maxed them out for 4 units to bring out with me. And what I did here, and sorry, I should mention, I thought I saw one. I actually brought 2 units of the K-16 Boomerang, as well as 2 more for the IS. So there's a total of 4 K-16 boomerangs that I have that can bring out my troops. Again, the reason I did this is because I have all these troops and I can get them out to the front lines a lot quicker with that vehicle speed at 100, get them out there into action a lot quicker. So I thought it's worth the spend to add more of these transportation vehicles as options to bring out my troops when you spawn them in. All right, next let's talk about the Verba here, which are going to take out your enemy air assets, helicopters and jets. I like putting these guys up in some of the taller buildings where they have a clear line of sight on enemy air that might be flying by, especially staging them up forward of where you're holding points at. So as those planes try to fly in to maybe perhaps do a bombing run or take out some of your ground targets that are holding a control point, these guys are out ahead of them so they can intercept them and shoot them down out of the sky. Definitely worth having all 4 slots filled, so take out all 4. And again, we're gonna have the K-16 Boomerang here as the main vehicles that are gonna usher them in. Same as I said before for the speed. I'm trying to get these guys from the back line to the front line or even forward ahead of the front line here. So we want to get them up there as fast as possible. It's definitely worth the spend, and go ahead and take out all 4. All right, then let's talk about the VDV Cornet, which is going to be comparable to the Marine Dragon unit here. They're going to be focused on ground forces, ground tanks, vehicles. They're going to take them out with their rockets and all of that. So good to have all 4 slots allocated and just fill it all up. They cost you 90 gold, not super expensive. And I paired that up with the BTRD as the main means to transport them into battle. Same kind of situation applies as I said about the Verba with the Cornet. I'm going to position them kind of out and ahead to intercept any kind of tanks or ground vehicles that are rolling into an area that are maybe trying to retake or take over a control point that our team is currently holding. Very, very useful. and super clutch for sure. So just max them out, take all 4 out. Finally, we have the VDV DSH here. They are the least expensive infantry units to pull out at only 55 gold. And I went ahead and almost pretty much, did I max them? No, I just did. Yeah, I was able to get out 7 total units, or allocate 7 units out of the total 12 allotment here when we go into a game. And again, nice little spread of armament here. AK-74, GP-34, the RPG, very deadly right there against enemy ground units that you come across, and the PKPM for some heavy duty shooting. These guys are probably gonna be some of the first you're gonna pull out because of the cost. In those instances throughout the match when you are hurting for gold, this makes it a lot easier to be able to pull these guys out because of that lower cost. You have something to put out into the battlefield. When it comes to transporting them, I went ahead and picked the BMD-4M as a means to transport them. You know, this thing isn't exactly the fastest thing out there compared to some of the other ones that we looked at that I chose to go with some of the other units, but I'm just mixing it up. It gives you a little bit of a tank presence there with the different weapon systems on here, and just wanted to mix it up, and that's largely why. This tank is a little bit more costly at 80. It's the most expensive of the vehicles. So that was kind of my thought process, and it basically got me close enough to the total allotment of 2250. I mean, with all of the units I have selected here, you're damn near right there at 2215 out of the total 2250, and that's a good assortment of units for sure on your infantry tab. Next, let's talk about vehicles. I went ahead and picked up the Sturm S, and we have about 3 of these on here. I like the cost for these at 65 gold, and what it does here with the weapons package, it can definitely take out some other enemy ground forces and do some damage, and at a reasonable cost. So went ahead and took 3 out of the total 4 slots for that. Next, I have the Cornet D1. We've got a total of 4, which is the max you can bring out on your deck here for these guys. Priced at 110 gold. It's a little bit more money, but you get a lot of bang for your buck with this thing, with the munitions that it has here. Just simply looking at it, you can see what it can do. It's going to launch on enemy enemy units, and it's gonna be very, very valuable. Moving along, when we get into our tanks here, I got the T80U. I like this one because of the price point. If I could, I'd probably max this one out if I had to, but I wanted to kind of spread things out a little bit more. So instead of maxing it all out, I just took 3 out of the total 6 slots and put it in there. These things are pretty powerful. They're a really good tank in the game, and at 180, it's, you know, it's a pretty good price point, to be honest with you, for your resources. T90 is over here as well. I have 2 out of the total 3 slots filled for the T90. Did I say T90? T90 is what I meant to say. T90M. Again, a good diversity of munitions on this thing. Mixes it all up. It will it does really well against enemy tanks, and it is a butt kicker. It's also going to kick your butt when it comes to gold. It's going to cost you 255 gold to bring one of these guys out. So be smart, be strategic when you're going to utilize this tank, and when you do roll it out to an area, make sure you bring out some other units with it to help protect it, defend it, scout out ahead of it for sure. You want to make sure that you get the most bang for your buck when you pull out one of these more expensive ground tank units here. Finally, we've got the BMPT Terminator here. This guy right here, again, at that 180 price point, it's good value. It does well on the field there. It's going to do a lot of work for you. I went ahead and got 3 units in my deck out of the total 4 slots that you could take on there, and with the selection of units that I have here for my vehicles, you'll see that we're right there. You know, the total allotment for vehicles is 2250. We're right there at 2225. So it's a really good starting point to utilize. Gives you a nice diversity of stuff, different price points, from the more expensive 255 T90M to the lower cost Sturm S at 65 gold. For when you are hurting for money, you're able to at least pull something out. Next, let's talk about the support vehicles. We're going to start here, and what I like about and what Russia has the advantage on, I think, honestly, is their air defense systems here. I mean, you got the Tunguska. This thing costs 200. I think this thing is probably underpriced for what it does, to be honest with you. Max that out 100%, 4 out of 4, take them all, and utilize the Tunguska and for what it's going to do on the battlefield for enemy air. that is in the vicinity. It's great to stage these guys around your areas where you're holding a base, where you expect enemies to try and fly over to bomb or target bomb. So stage those guys in those areas, not in the zone, but off to the side somewhere, and they can really wreak some havoc on the enemy air. We also have the Strela. Strela is another bad boy, man. And what's great about the Strela, it only costs 110 gold right here. If I could, I would have loved to have taken more, but I really wanted to kind of spread things out a little bit. And so I have 2 of the Strelas, and just grab them. They're pretty good as well. Next, we've got the Drak, which is just basically a comparable to the lav motor. The mortar lav allows you to drop out some mortars and concealment there with the smoke. I've got 3 on here. I probably could drop 1 and go up on, oh no, we still can't go up on the Strelas. I think that's perhaps why I kept it at 3, because I had leftover money. So I think, yeah, that's why it was. So I ended up going with 3. Doesn't hurt though, because of what they can do on the battlefield with dropping smoke, high explosive rounds. Stage them in the right way, utilize them in the same way that I mentioned utilizing the mortar lavs in the other video where we covered the deck build for the Marine, the USA forces. And it will be a great use. And honestly, for 50 gold, it's a lot of value in that thing. So just utilize it the right way, and it can really do a lot for you there. All right, you need a supply vehicle here. So we've got the VDV Cam AZ. It's 40 gold. Just got 2 of those guys there for transportation purposes. Doesn't hurt to have that in the battlefield. And then finally, I have the Buck M2 on here. I think you can see why we've got that up there. Very good and useful for enemy air, which you're going to be facing quite a bit. In my experience, when you're playing as Russia, the American side, those guys like to ring off those jets a lot. You know, the 18s, the Harriers, you know, all of them. They're flying them out there. So having a good air defense system there to address that is going to go a long way. And at 135 gold, it's not priced too bad at all. So I got 2 of these guys, stage them in the right place, and they can do a lot of work for you. Now let's talk about our helis. You're gonna need a heli to transport your troops and maybe sling some stuff around. You gotta grab the Mi-8. It's gonna do all the work for you, man. I mean, it's a classic air helicopter, and it's gonna do a lot for you right there. So just grab 2 of those guys. When it comes to attack helicopters, you've got your Ka-52 here. It's a better price point than the Mi-28NM, which I believe is in a more advanced version or variation. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with too much with all the Russian stuff, but it certainly costs more money, and the loadout and payload is a lot different. I mean, if you look at the Ka-52, you've got the 30mm, and then you've got an S8. So I believe the rockets are on here. And then when you look at the Mi-28, you've got the 30 Mike cannon, you've got the S13 rockets, and then you've got the Elmer, not quite sure what that is, laser guided rockets perhaps. So you've got a little bit more of an armament right there. So but it's going to cost you a bit more. So I went ahead and split the difference, took 2 of the Ka-52s, 2 of the Mi-28s, and called it a day. Nice little spread of helicopters right there, to be honest with you, at varying price points. And when it's all said and done, you can see here that I basically got it at 1,000. Like I hit it perfectly, so that I didn't leave any kind of money on the table, if you will, in allocating resources. So this worked out really great, and probably a good starting point for most people here. Closing things out here, let's look at the air. Here we have the IL-76MD. This thing can transport 125 troops. A lot of times what I see happening in matches is right when the match starts, they're spawning this guy in and dropping paratroopers off to the field. So there's different ways you can utilize this thing. It does cost you 250 gold. Only got 1 of those. Kind of like you have it there if you need it, kind of a situation. Next, the good old Su-35S is here. These aircraft are very expensive. So only was able to take 1 of these guys. And because of the cost, I was only able to take 1 more, which was going to be the Su-25. You know, the way I look at the Su-35 versus the 25, if you're going to try and do air-to-air against the US faction, send out that Su-35. when you see helicopters out there, enemy American helicopters are out there, or you want to focus on ground targets, take out the Su-25. It's definitely better for targeting ground units, assets, when you're doing that. But if there's enemy air up there, you probably don't want to pull out the Su-25. It's going to get dogged on pretty quick from the F-18s and some of the more advanced American aircraft that'll be in the air. So be mindful of when you deploy your Su-25. If the skies are clear, if you have, you know, some recon out there, you're able to see what's going on and it looks clear, send it out for a quick strike and then pull it off and get it and RTB it so that you don't burn that unit. You don't really have a lot of units. I mean, you got one of each of these, so you got to be very careful on how you deploy them, so you can at least use them a few times before they're destroyed in your match. So that is a look at my deck build for the Russian faction in Broken Arrow multiplayer here. Again, let me reiterate that this is by no means the end-all be-all list, and this is what I played with in my playthrough in the closed beta for that time period. That worked really well. A lot of diversity. It allowed me a variety of different kind of units on the field to play things in various ways. It also gave me different price points, because if we were hurting for money, I was still able to spawn out some level of vehicles to help get things going, when some of my teammates that, you know, loaded up on, you know, the top tier on each category, you know, units, they were broke and they weren't unable to assist us in any way. So there were times in some of my matches when it was literally 2v5 because 3 of our teammates were broke. They couldn't buy nothing, so I had to wait until the gold climbed back up for them to be able to start deploying their units, and that's a really shitty situation to be in. So let me know what you guys think about this deck list. How does it compare to yours? Try this one out if you're trying to figure things out. If you're new to Broken Arrow, try this out, see how you like it, and then adjust it as you need it, right? Adjust it on your playstyle. If you're more aggressive, you want to go on the front lines, you're probably going to want to load up on more you know, units that are going to be better suited for frontline or behind enemy lines, if you will, missions and kind of movements and so on and so forth. If you like to just kind of defend the home front, want to do more defensive, then you can load up on more units that are going to be better suited for setting up perimeters, holding, you know, holding choke points or whatever, you know. So you can really build this on how you want to build it, and eventually there will be a meta here soon enough. As more people play it, there'll be certain units that will be staples, and as that comes out, well, we'll cover those in separate videos. So thank you guys for watching. If you found the video useful, you want to learn more about Broken Arrows, I create more videos about it, tips, tricks, and so on and so forth. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. Callsign Grimey out.